Welcome to this week's edition of the Scots in Us. I am delighted that we're going to be able to go behind the curtain and find out more about the wonderful life of Mary Queen of Scots, because in this coming few days, the Scottish Ballet will arrive in New York to bring their acclaimed work to Lincoln Center. And so I'd like to introduce you to Elizabeth Manson, who is the president of the Mary Queen of Scots Society. And she's coming over to New York to join us here in the coming days to enjoy the Scottish Ballet performance. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your patience in arranging to do this podcast with us. I wonder if you could start off by telling us a little bit about the society and about Mary Queen of Scots' life that has led to this ballet coming together.
Yes, so the Mary Queen of Scots Society was set up in 1992. So we've been around for quite a long time, and our purpose is to study the life and times of Mary Queen of Scots, because the 16th century in Scotland, in Britain, in Europe, was a very interesting period with lots of changes that have an impact on life today. And Mary Queen of Scots is a name I'm sure that most people will recognise, possibly because of her death. So we hope to share with you about what happened before that. She had a turbulent 44 years of life with many twists and turns, and in some ways it's almost too incredible to be real. But I'll start off with her childhood, and there's sort of four main parts to her life. So she was born in Scotland in 1542, and she became queen at just 6 days old when her father, James V, died. And at age 5, she went across to her mother's homeland of France, where she grew up in the wonderful, extravagant, and luxurious French court. She married the Dauphin when she was just 15, he was 14, in just a fabulous ceremony in Notre Dame Cathedral. And her robes were encrusted with pearls and diamonds and precious stones, and there were pageants and masks. And a year later, the King of France died in a jousting accident, and so Francois and Mary became King and Queen of France. A very secure and happy childhood, and a very glittering future ahead.
And also, this was it had such a huge influence on her life when she later on did return to Scotland, of course, because the formality of France and the court was very different to what was happening in Scotland at that time.
That's right, because the French court was very rich, and she was feted and loved in this luxury. And she was educated and brought up to be a queen consort. So she learned dancing, she was a great poet, she was interested in riding, playing cards, music. So she had all the accomplishments of a consort rather than a ruler of state. And because she was tall, she was 5'11", which was very unusual in those days. Auburn hair, hazel eyes, charming, great sense of humour, very witty. So she was completely unprepared for actually running and ruling a country.
But also a country that really, as I mentioned before, is the Scotland of those times really did not take women into account.
No, well, I'm sure you will have heard of the Reverend John Knox, who was a very fiery leader of the Reformation in Scotland when it moved from Catholic to Protestant. And he certainly had views about women as rulers, and And Karen Brenton, who's with me today, and is also coming to America next week. Karen will just read us a couple of sentences from the opening of John Knox's diatribe, and that will give you that sense of what Mary came back to in Scotland.
John Knox's book is entitled First Blast of the Trumpet Against the Monstrous Regiment of Women, and this was published in 1558. And it was aimed at really several women who were in positions of power. Mary the First of England, who's also known as Bloody Mary, Catherine de Medici, who was the regent in France, Mary de Guise, who was regent in Scotland, and also Mary Queen of Scots. And the opening sentence of the book is as follows: to promote a woman to bear rule, superiority, dominion, or empire above any realm, nation, or city is repugnant to nature, contumely to God, thing most contrarious to his revealed will and approved ordinance. And finally, it is the subversion of good order, of all equity and justice.
So
Thank
how did Mary deal with all of this? So let's go back a bit. So she's married to the Dauphin. She's having a one who's now the king. She's now running the court. What went wrong? What happened that brought her back to Scotland in such a dramatic way?
Well, very sadly, after only a year or so of marriage, Francois contracted an ear infection and died. And Mary was therefore a widower at the French court, and her mother-in-law, the formidable Catherine de Medici, made it very clear to Mary that she was no longer welcome in the French court. And as Mary had her own kingdom in Scotland, and her mother, who had been looking after Scotland on her behalf, had also sadly recently died. And so Mary decided to go back to Scotland, to her original country. And the way she dealt with that Reformation was she issued a proclamation of religious tolerance, which was very radical at its time. And she was trying to live in harmony with the Reformation, despite the fact that she was a Catholic. She was trying to accommodate all parties. And the Scottish lords, who were also not very pleased to have Mary back because they thought they would rule while she was away. She tried to, she gave them positions of power and authority and tried to bring them in that view about, harmony and we can all work together.
And so, what was the next process as she arrived back there? She's dealing with John Knox. She's trying everything in her power to sort things out. How did this clash of lords and clan chiefs come about?
Well, she did do her best in the court to accommodate all their interests. She made herself known to her people. She did royal progresses around the whole of Scotland. And I think one of the things that people always say, wherever you go in Scotland, there's a sign saying Mary Queen of Scots was here, either that or Bonnie Prince Charlie was here. But in Mary's case, it probably is true because she had a view that she wanted to meet her real subjects. So when she was going around with the Scottish court, dispensing justice, etc., she also started this new concept of a royal walkabout and meeting her real subjects and real people.
How
And
long
the
did
other,
that go on for?
that just went on for about 3 or 4 years. She really did cover the miles, and of course, I mean, she was taking her own bed with her. She was taking her own wardrobe with her, so it wasn't just popping things in a suitcase. There were about 24 cartloads, so it was quite a spectacle to see the Scottish court on the road. And the other
moving
thing, of
around.
course, she did was to find a husband. That was a very great pressure on her. And Mary believed that she had found a suitable husband when she met Henry Lord Darnley, because he was the great grandson of Henry VII of England. So he was of a noble family and had connections to the English throne, as did Mary. And they met in the February, they got engaged in the May, and they got married in July, because she was very much infatuated by him. And we do have a quote about what Mary thought of Darnley when she first met him, from Melville, the Scottish ambassador, and it says, she took well with him and said that he was the lustiest and best proportioned man that she had seen, for he was of high stature, long and slender even, and of good posture. So these are the things that win you a queen's heart in 1565.
But was she, I have to ask this, was she in touch with Elizabeth down south at this time?
Yes, so Elizabeth and Mary were great letter writers, and they had corresponded with each other initially very fondly, calling each other cousin and sister, and they sent each other jewels and gifts. And they did continue throughout their whole lives to write to each other, but obviously there were times when perhaps it was a little more difficult, but they certainly continued a correspondence. And we have many of the letters still in existence between the two of them.
So at this point, she is married. She's got a lot going on. What went wrong?
Well, it turns out, of course, Darnley was not the wonderful man that she had initially thought. He turned out to be an alcoholic. He was arrogant, violent, visited prostitutes, was bisexual, and he was most likely having a relationship with Mary's Italian secretary, David Rizzio. And so there was this very difficult situation with Darnley. And because of Rizzio's closeness to Mary, actually, not the relationship with Darnley, Rizzio was fatally stabbed 57 times by Darnley and the other Scottish lords in the presence of the very heavily pregnant Mary in her own chambers in the Palace of Holyrood House. And if you go to Holyrood House, the bloodstains, in inverted commas, are still there in the room, which perhaps is slightly unlikely given it was over 500 years ago. But you know, you can still
You
see
can
the
feel the
spot.
presence of the blood
Absolutely, absolutely.
of the slaying. So at this point, she's pregnant. She's this horrible, knowing that her husband has killed
Yeah.
the confidant, and he's probably his lover. What goes on next?
Well, she gives birth to a son, James, at Edinburgh Castle, and she did acknowledge to Darnley that he was definitely his son. And there was also an Elizabeth the First connection in there in terms of her reaction. And Karen maybe got a couple of quotes about that we could hear.
Yes,
Because
well, when
Elizabeth, of course. So, in context, for those who don't know, Elizabeth had not married, did not have a child, and therefore this child was going to really have probably claims upon the upon the
English
English
throne.
throne.
Absolutely.
yeah, and in fact, Mary actually said to the English ambassador on James's birth, "This is the son whom I hope will first unite the two kingdoms, Scotland and England." So she had already acknowledged that possibility. And Elizabeth I also acknowledged the situation, and her quote was, "Mary, Queen of Scots, is lighter of a fair sun Well, I am of barren stump, so she was accepting that she had not produced an heir at this stage.
So yes.
This stage, did also the tensions in England play a part in the whole story that unravels around this?
Yes, because ever since Mary came back to Scotland, the English court were particularly aware that Mary had a claim to the English throne, and Elizabeth I had been declared illegitimate by her father, and that was never revoked. So she had been conceived while her father was still married to his first wife. So, she was in those terms illegitimate. And so Catholic Europe and all Catholics in our country believed that Elizabeth should not be on the throne and that Mary should be on the throne. So there was indeed that tension underlying the relationship. And of course, when Mary had a son who had a claim to the English throne through both his parents, that heightened the tension, as you say.
So, what's the next stage to this?
Well, Darnley's behaviour got even worse. But Mary, of course, being Catholic, would not hear of divorce, but also to protect the legitimacy of her son. So some lords took matters into their own hands. And in February 1567, Darnley's residence was blown up in an explosion in Edinburgh. Although actually he was found strangled in the grounds of his house. So again, a great detective problem about how was he actually killed, who killed him, and the chances are that it was one of Mary's most loyal lords, the Earl of Bothwell. But if they had just waited a little while, because later examination of Darnley's skull proved that he actually had tertiary syphilis. And if they'd just waited a few months, he would have died by natural causes. So a very scandalous incident where the husband of the Queen had been killed. And there was obviously suggestions that Mary had known about it or had even colluded in it. And that caused public opinion to turn against her. And Edinburgh, particularly, had graffiti all round the walls showing a mermaid, which was the sign of a prostitute, and a hare, which is the symbol of the Earl of Bothwell's coat of arms. So at that point, she really lost the goodwill of the Scottish people.
So that was a turning point.
Very much so. And I think what happened next was even more shocking for her, because just a month after Darnley's death, the Earl of Bothwell abducted Mary, took her back to his own castle, and either coerced or raped her. And fearing, therefore, she may be pregnant, she agreed to marry him. And the account of that marriage service is extremely sad because she cried the whole way through it. And the wedding breakfast was eaten in complete silence. So it was a very traumatic and very sad period for Mary.
So, when did the tension of the warring occur and the capture of Mary, Queen of Scots?
So that had been just a couple of months after Darnley's murder. And because the Scottish people had turned against them, the Scottish lords also were really divided about who was supporting Mary and Bothwell and who were against her. And Mary negotiated Bothwell's release with no fighting, but she was captured and she was taken to Loch Leven, which is near Perth. And sadly, she miscarried twins. And the day after that, the Scottish lords forced her to sign her abdication papers. And so her son, James VI, um, obviously still an infant, and therefore Mary's half-brother and some of the lords were ruling as regent in her stead.
And what occurs next? Does the ballet go to that point, or does it go right the way through her life?
No, the ballet recognises that she then flees to England. And I think at that point, really Mary's life changed because she was only 25 at this point. She was still very, very young. And after she escaped from her capture, which is again quite dramatic, led her troops into battle, and then she decided that she would go to Elizabeth to seek help. And so the ballet does recognise at that point that she leaves Scotland and she goes down to she goes across to England. So she arrives in England, she travels to Carlisle Castle, and for the next 19 years, she was moved around in prison. She spent most of the time in Sheffield. So I think that's probably a little known fact that Mary Queen of Scots spent the majority of her life in the middle of England.
Well, but also I didn't realize how long she was captured in
Yes,
England.
yes, she spent the majority of her life there. So
It,
it was a pretty difficult time. Although, I mean, although she was a prisoner, it's a bit more like house arrest than being a prisoner. I mean, she dined on her own canopy of state, and she had gold dishes, and she was, of course, a bit of a celebrity wherever she was. People, all the local dignitaries wanted to meet her. And she had quite a sizable retinue of staff there. So she wasn't living in bread and water and behind bars, but her time there was obviously she had no control over her own movement.
so why did she meet such an untimely end when in Sheffield
Yeah.
she was in having a peaceful but
Mhm.
life?
Well, I think after 19 years, I think you must begin to think actually, people were always plotting and thinking about, removing Elizabeth, restoring Catholicism. And although she was a prolific letter writer, and although she had much official correspondence with royalty right across Europe, she sent many secret letters, and there were very sophisticated ciphers, and that's something that the ballet, the stage set, captures with great skill and real imagination. And there were over 15,000 different symbols in these coded letters. And Elizabeth's spymaster, Walsingham, the first real sort of organised spy ring, he had a network of informants from Constantinople to France, right across Scotland and England. And then he carefully added something into one letter that entrapped Mary into sending a treasonous message back about removing Elizabeth from the throne. And as
Oh,
soon as she wrote that was it. That was the end game. That her trial and death warrant was
her
just.
fingerprints were on it.
Yeah. And she did. I mean, she absolutely did collude in that. But Walsingham and his network of spies really did trick her and managed to maneuver that situation.
So this has been the most fascinating deep delve into this. And we're going to catch up with the Scottish Ballet in the coming days to also hear from them for this podcast. And how do you feel about the ballet? It's having the most wonderful reviews as it tours now in the United States, having been such a success in Scotland.
Yeah, well, the ballet, every aspect of it has been so carefully and skillfully put together that the costumes are spectacular. The music is wonderful. And of course, that the stage sets really add to the atmosphere and help tell the story. And of course, the dancing is just breathtaking. So you put the whole thing together, and it's just another contribution to the legacy that Mary Queen of Scots has left us.
Well, so if you have not already purchased tickets to go, and you can come to New York to see the ballet, it will be they will be dancing from the 4th of June through the 7th at Lincoln Center at the Couch Theatre, and it's just wonderful. And we'll put up a QR code and a link to how to get tickets. But tell us a little bit also, before we finish, Elizabeth, about how the Mary Queen of Scots Society, because you do have a chapter over here in the States as well, is looking further into everything, and one can learn more and support your work.
Thank you. So yes, we have members right round the world, not just the Scottish diaspora, but Mary's a source of fascination, I think, for many different people. And as well as looking at where she went and objects associated with her, she does inspire great cultural interest. And one of the things that Karen is doing is putting together an anthology of poetry, which of course can be an international interest. And our website attracts people from at least sort of 20, 30 countries every year. Top one, of course, is Britain, but USA is the second highest number of hits on our website. So we know that Mary is of interest across the United
The
States.
globe. So I hope that we can call upon you again when there is different information to share, and delve deeper into this, because I'm sure we haven't covered all of this. And just as an aside, we whilst you're here, I hope you come by our office, because we were gifted the most magnificent hand-stitched tapestry that's 6 foot by 4 foot, that was done in the 1800s. And the person who did it, this young girl, she was a great grandmother of the person who gifted it. He said, I have no idea why my grandmother was so fascinated with Mary Queen of Scots. We're not Scots at all.
Oh well, we would certainly love to see that. And I think the Met are putting on the opera, which is related to Mary Queen of Scots,
Who
in
is that?
their season. The Met, the New York
Oh,
Metropolitan
they are.
Opera, are doing Maria Stuart in December this year. Karen and I were actually due to come and see that in May 2020, but COVID put paid to that trip.
Well,
So we're
we
very
should.
much looking forward to coming to the States next.
Well, come. When is that in December? Do you know yet?
The dates are on their website. I think it's the 6th, maybe something around that.
All right. Well, we look forward to reconvening on this conversation when you're over again. But for now, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for this. And I look forward to meeting you once you arrive here next week.
Great.
So
Thank
you, everyone.
Thank you.
And so now we continue our conversation and are joined by members of the Scottish Ballet. We're so delighted to have this opportunity to go behind the scenes with them. And so we're going to begin let's ask you actually to introduce yourselves. That would be wonderful. So Oliver, do you want to lead us off?
Yes, I'm Oliver Rideout, and I'm the Deputy Artistic Director for Scottish Ballet.
And James, tell
I'm
us a
James
little bit.
Garrington, and I'm a first artist with the company.
So you're dancing.
Yes.
Wonderful. And then Daniela.
Yes, I'm Daniela Marzilli, and I'm an artist with the company.
And how long have you been with them, Daniela?
I've been about 2.5 years now.
And do you live in Scotland?
Yes, yeah, we're all based in Glasgow.
Wonderful. And did any of you, just as a matter of interest, come through the Royal Conservatoire?
Yes, I did actually.
Because
3 years.
I heard from them that they have 7 dancers in the company.
Yes,
it's
exactly. There's
wonderful.
quite a few of us now, so it's quite nice to have a big number, going
That's
on.
fantastic. So they are such huge supporters of everything happening. So let's go begin, Oliver, by learning a little bit about what it takes to bring this wonderful production to the States. You've been down in Charleston just now. Are you after New York going further, or this is a huge undertaking to be at Lincoln Center?
Yeah, it's really exciting. It was really exciting to be here in Charleston at the Spoleto Festival and also in New York next week. Actually, this is the next week will be the end of our season. But actually the journey up to this has been quite fulfilling because it premiered, Mary Queen of Scots premiered at the Edinburgh International Festival last year in August. And then we did a national tour of it throughout that autumn. And then in March, we took it to Sadler's Wells Theatre in London. And this is its 4th outing this season to bring it to the US.
Wow. How many are in the company let's deal with it in bits. So how many dancers do you have?
At capacity, we have 40 dancers.
Wow.
And there's about 25 dancers in the production.
Right. And then the crew putting this together?
Crew numbers, I'm less sure of. About 10. I think we've got about 10 people on the tech team. That's
wow.
And also we have stage management as well. Yeah.
So that's not I thought it was going to be more daunting than that. So this is you got it, you put it together so that it's a production that can move.
Absolutely. And I think we keep the cast numbers down from the full members of the company so that we can do several casts, so that we can change people over. And I think also as far as the tech crew are concerned, when we move around, we bring our own crew, but we're also joined by the local crew that are based in the theatres that we perform in. So that collaboration of those numbers are then obviously higher. And
this is quite an intense itinerary you've got as dancers as well, because you're in Charleston right now, and I know about that because some of our cohorts down south are going to be seeing the performances and are very excited. And then you're straight up to New York. Will you have a few days of rehearsal up here?
Yes. So the first day, I think we're just doing technical rehearsals, and that's kind of something we do to feel the space. Every theatre's got its own little quirks and can be very different. So that's as much as it is for us as it is for the technical team and for different dressers. And it's just getting a feel for the space, if there's anything we need to adapt. Some stages are smaller than others, but the scenery is usually made to kind of fit kind of a one size fits all.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of getting a feel for the space and just making sure it runs smoothly.
Now, the costumes and the production itself has been getting a lot of acclaim. For you, how does this all work? Do you really feel transported back into that time? And are the costumes complicated to dance within, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variety of costumes throughout, and especially for the corps de ballet, there's a lot of costume changes going on. Some would say there's more running backstage than on stage. Sometimes there's so many costume changes. So yes, we go from French court to English court to Scottish court. What else is there? We have various characters, of course, but mostly the people changing a lot of costumes are the corps de ballet. And those really help us to get into that sort of style of movement as well.
Right.
And then some costumes really are characterized. We have some of the four Marys. They're really beautiful costumes. We have a little beret because we're French. And we've got beautiful sort of velvet, long black leotard with pearls on us. So it makes us feel really beautiful and rich. And then what else do we go? We've gone to spies as well. Spies have these really cool sort of fly-like masks that sort of, you know, insect-looking like creatures that are also very interesting. But there's so much variety.
I think that you're going to love being at Lincoln Center. It's such a powerful, wonderful place, and it I think will give you a lot of energy for what you're doing. And so what is your hope from this production? Will this roll forward next year, or is this it for now? I mean, Sadler's Wells must have been fantastic.
Yeah, it was incredible to take the show to London. We tried to visit London now at least once every 2 years, but it's actually been more frequent than that of late. So I think there's hope for more international touring with this production going forward. But obviously, we have to plan our seasons, 3-4 years in advance. And because we performed it quite a lot this year, as it stands, that's it for now.
That's it.
But if we're invited somewhere else, hopefully we can fit that into our schedule.
We haven't seen you, I don't think, in the States for several years. I mean, I want to say I haven't seen you for about 5 years here.
We were at, yes, we were back at the Spoleto Festival 3 years ago with the Crucible.
Right.
But we haven't been in New York. We were in New York in 2020 at the Joyce Theatre with a smaller cast. But that was cut short because it was right before the pandemic. So we actually only did 2 or 3 shows and then we had to fly home.
Yeah, that was when I last saw you.
Right.
So this is very exciting.
Yeah.
And what are the plans for the Scottish Ballet as a whole? What are you doing during the Fringe, and the festival this coming year? And then to our dancers, what are you involved in? So let's go 1, 2, 3.
So because we try and do the Edinburgh Festival every couple of years, and I'm just checking we're allowed to talk about the next project, the Edinburgh Festival. No, can't talk about the next project, the Edinburgh Festival. So because we've just done that, the next project will be in a couple of years' time. So just keep your ears open for that.
Oh no! So we are the American Scottish Foundation. We love to be an amplifier of message and what's going on, and put that share that out. So do keep us informed. We work closely, as I say, with RCS, and so I know they want to know what you're all up to. And then James, for you, what's your next? What will you be up to next with the company that you're allowed to talk about?
So the next thing we have coming up is a double bill. And it's Crystal Pipes Emergence and a new work by Julia Cheng. So it's a double bill is like 2 works that are slightly shorter put together, and so it will often be slightly more contemporary works or abstract, not necessarily a narrative like Mary is. So I think we're both very excited to sink our teeth into that because Crystal Pipe has such a well-known like movement quality.
I think it's quite a bucket list tick for quite a few dancers, actually, that one. So we're really looking forward to that one. And then after that,
yes, carry on. Sorry.
After that, we have our Christmas season, and we'll be bringing back Cinders back again, and so that'll be a few months of that one as well, because our Christmas season is usually like our most intense period. And then after that, is it?
Well, we're going to share with everybody how they can learn more, keep up to date with the Scottish Ballet and what's going on. And I hope it's not 5 years till you're back here again. And enjoy New York when you get here. I hope you have a few minutes to rush around. You're in a great part of the city, and very best of luck. And I will see you during the week. Maybe this is going to be fantastic. Thank you for making the time to join me. Thank you.
Thanks, Camilla.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
We got through it.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much. Was that okay for you?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Did you get everything you needed?
Yeah, I think that if we put up, we've got the clips of the film. I'll do some links saying now let's begin. We'll do that at the beginning and then go from one to another. We'll be fine. But hopefully, Terry, you can share this when we'll send you the link and share it out and push it.
Yeah, I'll
As we
forward it
push
on to
it.
our marketing team.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Wonderful. See
Wonderful.
you in
Thank
New
you,
York.
Camilla.
Bye-bye.
Have a good performances.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Enjoy. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.